I used to think like we'd have to go top down, like work on the governments need to create these changes, but really the change begins with us. And if we do these small acts, then they kind of grow.
Welcome to the Mindful Communication Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Miller. And on today's episode, I interview Alana Gennara. Alana is a meditation teacher and is the founder of the project Letter to a Stranger, an initiative to leave anonymous notes to strangers with kind messages inside. The idea of leaving a kind letter to a stranger is so powerful, not only because the receiver gets the gift of a wonderful message, but there's also incredible benefits for the person who's actually leaving the note. And better yet, there's hard science to back all of this up, that it feels good to give. In this interview, we talk about the project Letter to a Stranger, what exactly it is, how it came about, and the awesome impact it's already made. Alana, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I want to hear all about this project that you have called Letters to a Stranger. So maybe tell us a little bit about that.
So Letter to a Stranger started as a passion project, and it promotes random acts of kindness that works at spreading love and positivity throughout the city. And it's done through the art of writing letters. So each package comes with postcards that have positive, uplifting sayings or affirmations on them. And then what you do is you actually write a letter, not to a stranger, but you write a letter to yourself. And you say things in this letter that you really needed to hear either as a child or during a difficult time, or maybe just something you need to hear right now. And you write that in your letter, but you address it to a stranger. So what we like to do is we say, "Dear beautiful stranger," we write our letter to ourselves, and then we sign off with, "Love, a beautiful stranger." And then you take these postcards and you put them in. The package also comes with these envelopes. And on the front of the envelope, it says, "Hey you, yes you, if you're reading this, please pick me up, I'm yours." And so you place your postcard in this envelope, you seal it, and then whenever you're leaving the house, whether it's for a walk or to go grocery shopping or a coffee shop, work or school, you bring these cards with you. And whenever the time feels right, you leave the card in a public place for a beautiful stranger to find.
And I love actually the way that you have these instructions with, "Hey, beautiful stranger," and you'd write it to yourself. It's almost kind of fitting because you're writing it to yourself, and we often don't really know ourselves as well as we think.
Wow, I never even thought of that. That's so beautiful. I love it.
What inspired you to bring about this idea? Like, how did you come up with it?
So, me and my husband, when we first started dating, we loved going for lots of walks and bike rides. And whenever we'd leave the house, because we were both really into like personal development and doing these activities that kind of make us feel good. So, we would just go to like Dollarama, buy some cards, and we would write these letters to ourselves. And whenever we go for these walks or these bike rides, we bring them and leave them along the route. And we started finding that we started like having these smiles on our faces and a little pep in our step, and it really made us feel really good. And at the time, I just started teaching a meditation group, and so we thought it would be a great opportunity to bring it there because it's not your regular like silent meditation. It's a meditation that brings up a lot for you. So because these letters work at figuring out and writing what it is that you need, we thought it was a great idea to bring it there because you're bringing up a lot of stuff, and what better idea than to get it in a letter to now spread to other people. So I had the meditation groups doing it, and I was starting to get a lot of emails from them saying how cathartic it was and how beautiful it was for them to do it. And the one that like really solidified for me that this is something that needs to be shared on a larger scale was I went for coffee with a participant. And she had tears in her eyes as she was telling me the story of her writing her letter. And she left it on an airplane. And she left the airplane just crying because she just felt like it was so incredible that someone would find something that said the things that she really needed to hear. And she just told me what a beautiful idea it was. And I was like, wow, I really need to figure out a way to like more people to have the opportunity to do this. And so that's kind of how it started.
And now we're both located in Toronto. We're both based in Toronto. So this is primarily where the origins of the project are. Has it expanded beyond our great city here in Toronto?
It's actually doing better in other like, I get more international requests than from Toronto. Like, a lot of the Toronto letters that are being written and, being found are either being given at, like, meditation groups that I do or through friends and family. But a lot of people like, I have, a subscription a subscriber from London, England, a lot of people in India, the States. There's a teacher who bought like a large package of them to share with her school, and I think it was Chicago. I'm not sure exactly where, but so it's a lot more popular, like internationally, than it is locally, surprisingly.
Now, I imagine so. I'm going to write up one of these wonderful letters to myself and address it to a stranger, and I'm going to leave it somewhere. And I get that it feels good because I know I was taught from a young age, and it's something that I've experienced time and again in my life that it really feels good to give. Now, do you have any proof of that? Have you received any amazing stories from people who have received these letters and have had kind of their day shifted or their week or their month or their life shifted?
So I'll start by saying that I recently found a study. I'll read it to you right now. The study was published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of the Sciences, and it found that kindness can be highly contagious. So they found that whenever you act kindly towards one person, that person is much more likely to be kinder towards others in the future. So what they did in the study is they had the participants playing a game that rewarded greed. And they found that, say, in round one, player one was kind to player two. They found that in round two, player one and player two were more likely to be kind to another player. So that in round three, player one, two, three, and four were now kind. So it's like this multiplying effect. And it creates this ripple effect of kindness. It starts as a single act, but then it spreads outwards, affecting many more people. So
That's wonderful. I think that's really great, and I think that's what's the magic about this project is that really by taking this act, you're setting off this chain reaction, and you're also not necessarily going to experience that chain reaction, but you know that you are setting it off. And I think that's why, at least for me, I'm so motivated by communication skills in general, and more on a larger scale, just like working on myself as a human being and making sure that I am as, at peace with myself as I can, and I'm spreading as much joy as I can in my life because I know that what that does is it has an impact on the people around me. And by working on myself, I actually make the world a better place.
100%. I was in my early 20s, I was super passionate about making change. And I did my master's and focused on politics. And I was like, we really need to figure out a way to make these huge changes. And what I finally realized at the end of it all is it just comes down to ourselves, is the small things. I used to think like we'd have to go top down, like work on the governments. The governments need to create these changes. But really, the change begins with us. And if we do these small acts, then they kind of grow. Like if I am a good person and I treat my family good, then my family's going to grow up and treat other people good. And then that's going to affect the community, and the community is going to affect the city, and the city is going to affect the country, and so on and so forth. And that's kind of how I view change, like how to make change now today.
Have you received any wonderful testimonials from anyone receiving these letters?
Yeah. So the first little while, I think it was like within the first month of doing this, I remember me and my husband reading this email that I had gotten, and we were both like, I think we were just silent reading it and like, oh my God, it's working. Um, Normally, I get messages through my Instagram account, but this person actually messaged me through the website, and I'll read it to you. It says, I cannot thank you enough for the impact this letter had on me. During one of the most difficult times of my life, I read the exact words I needed to hear, and it brought me such peace. What a fantastic idea. And I was just like, whoa. Because that was the intention. Like, I don't know if I mentioned it already, but another aspect of this is learning to let go of the outcome and letting go of the need to control the outcome. So you're writing this letter, and that's why we don't write it to people that we know. We're writing it to strangers because the point is to write what you really need and to put it out in the universe and to not look back and just know and trust that whoever's meant to find that letter, whoever's meant to read the words that you wrote in that letter will find it. And so to hear that someone read the exact words they needed to hear was like mind-boggling. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then on the Instagram account, we get a lot of messages like, I found this at X, Y, and Z, and I really needed this, or this really made my day, or just a simple thank you. And mind you, these aren't letters that I've personally written. These are letters that other people have written, so I can't take credit for them. But these are, some of the things that we hear. One of my favorite ones, a mother shared it with her son. And he's probably, I don't know how old he is, but from the writing, I'm assuming maybe like 6 years old. And she instructed him to write a letter saying the things that he needed to hear. And I'm going to read it to you because it's so cute. But he wrote, "Dear stranger, you're strong and fast. You are special. You have a big heart. You can do anything you want and need. You are everything a human needs." And that ending, "you're everything a human needs."
Wow.
Like just completely melted my heart. And I'm sure whoever found that just died reading it.
And it's so great. I mean, what I love about that is that it's a 6-year-old who wrote it. And I mean, I listened to that as an adult and I'm like, wow, I definitely needed to hear that.
Yeah. And I asked her, I'm like, do you mind if I share this on my account? She's like, of course. Thank you for giving us these letters. It was so great to do together. And I never thought of it because I was doing these in my meditation circles with adults. I never even thought of sharing it with kids. And I thought how powerful it is to do with your kids because you're asking them to write things that they need to hear. So it's giving you a little insight into what they want to hear from you or what they think is important. So I think it's really powerful to do with kids, and it gets them thinking about what's important to them.
So right now, this project is kind of like a side project of yours. In an ideal world, I mean, what would you like to see this project become if it really like took off?
Oh my God, we had a vision when we were talking about sharing it and like how cool it would be. It was when Pokemon Go was popular.
Yeah, like on the mobile phones and everyone is out in public spaces on their phones. Yeah.
We'd be driving around, you'd see a group of people clustered in a park. And I thought, how amazing would it be if people were out like a little treasure hunt trying to find these letters of positivity? Like that would be like the ultimate goal, is to have a lot of people out going for a walk, being active and looking for these things that are going to uplift them. And then it will encourage them to do the same thing. And there's just so much kindness being spread throughout our city.
And I guess that's what's really important to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful. Where can our listeners find out more about this project?
So I have a website, lettertoastranger.ca, and also my Instagram account, which is Letter to a Stranger. And if you follow the account, so a lot of people who write the cards will follow the account because sometimes people will post a letter that they've found and I usually share it. Like I ask for permission. If they are okay with it, then I'll share the letter publicly. So you can kind of follow the story of the letter if you end up writing one and someone finds it and posts it. So I also wanted to suggest when the podcast is aired, whoever the first 5 listeners are who reach out, I would love to give them a Letter to a Stranger package, kind of like a little giveaway.
That's wonderful. Yeah. So listeners, make sure to reach out to Alana. The first 5 will get their own package that they can write in and leave some letters to a stranger.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Awesome. Well, I wish you the best of luck with this amazing project and making this world a more kind place.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Big thanks to Alana for coming on to the show. We're on a mission to spread the importance and the power of communication and connection in our world. If that's something you're interested in supporting, please subscribe to the podcast and give it a great rating and review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find lots of great communication tips and content on Instagram at Mindful Communication and on Facebook at Mindful Comms. And also be sure to check out the website mindfulcommunication.me for more great communication goodness and to see what programs we're offering there. Today's music was provided by Shinogo. You can get Shinogo's music wherever you get your music, and editing was done by Maya Miller. Once again, you've been listening to the Mindful Communication Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Miller. Thanks for tuning in.